Hi, I'm the Reverend Beth Dana, the Minister of Faith Development at First Unitarian Church of Dallas. This video is the culmination of a year-long journey of our coming-of-age youth that they have been on together with the guidance of their advisors, Diana Bacon, Shari Childers, Scott Dalton, and Conrad Hamric. While learning about Unitarian Universalist history, theology, and spiritual practice, and reflecting on their place in this faith, they have also engaged in a process of spiritual reflection based on a text they chose. These texts come from a variety of sources, from the Bible, theological texts, and from quotes from Unitarians and Universalists past and present. The advisors and ministers have met with them monthly over the course of a year, asking and exploring tough theological and spiritual questions, and inviting them to make connections between the texts they chose and their lives. The youth's reflections took different forms: prose, poetry, and visual art, which they recorded to share with you, their community. Here in this compilation of videos, they courageously and vulnerably share their reflections with us about what they're learning, what is most important to them, and their advice on how to live a good and meaningful life. Let the blessing of their words wash over you.
Hello, my name is Jillian Stanton, and the reading I chose is from Meditations of the Heart by Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman. How good it is to center down, to sit quietly and see oneself pass by. The streets of our minds seethe with endless traffic, our spirits resound with clashing, with noisy silences, while something deep within hungers and thirsts for the still moment and the resting lull. With full intensity we seek, ere the quiet passes, a fresh sense of order in our living, a direction, a strong, sure purpose that will structure our confusion and bring meaning in our chaos. We look at ourselves in this waiting moment, the kinds of people we are. The questions persist. What are we doing with our lives? What are the motives that order our days? What is the end of our doings? Where are we trying to go? Where do we put the emphasis, and where are our values focused? For what end do we make sacrifices? Where is my treasure, and what do I love most in life? What do I hate most in life, and to what am I true? Over and over, the questions beat in upon the waiting moment. As we listen, floating up through all the jangling echoes of our turbulence, there is a sound of another kind, a deeper note which only the stillness of the heart makes clear. It moves directly to the core of our being. Our questions are answered. With the peace of the eternal in our step, how good it is to center down. This passage stuck out to me because of its recognition of the importance of the still moment and the resting lull. I'm a very busy person, and usually taking a moment for myself is not something I prioritize. The idea of taking a quiet moment to consider the trajectory of my life, the things I love and the things I hate, what the motives that drive me to be better are, and any of the other questions Reverend Dr. Thurman asks in his writing is a little daunting. One phrase of his work that really stood out to me is, with full intensity we seek, ere the quiet passes, a fresh sense of order in our living, a direction, a strong, sure purpose that will structure our confusion and bring meaning in our chaos. Along with being a busy person, I'd also consider myself to be very straightforward. I like to know exactly how to do things and when they need to be done, often not being very thoughtful about the work that I'm doing. To me, Reverend Dr. Thurman's piece is about embracing the uncertainty of our universe and our mortal being by relying on a force greater than ourselves, relying on that deeper note of our heart to guide us and answer those questions. Through reflecting on this piece, I've taken many moments to center down and try to focus on thinking of the questions being asked in the piece that I chose. I do not know what I'm doing with my life, but I know that I want it to be full of my family and my friends, and jellyfish and bagels with cream cheese and orange cats and Taylor Swift and wildflowers. I know that the motives that order my days are ones of good intent, of passion and love and kindness. I know that my values are focused on loving and respecting others and learning to love and respect myself. Hopefully, I'll be able to answer all of the questions soon, or maybe I never will. But by taking these moments to center down, I'm learning to focus on the things that matter and the things I care about, rather than making myself too busy to remember what I'm doing it all for and what's driving me. This church has been such a wonderful place for me to find the direction I'm going, and has always been there to guide me on that path. I want to continue to explore my faith and spirituality in this church, and I believe that one day I will be able to say that I hear that deeper note.
Hi, I'm Isaac Pittenger, and my selection for my spiritual reflection was this. It has been said that a church is a community of memory, hope, and reverence. Its purpose, in a large part, is to make connections not only between and among each other, but more, between past and future, the temporal and the eternal, even between the human and the divine. Reverend Dr. Earl K. Holt III. My spiritual reflection piece goes as follows. I believe that the most important part of the practice of spirituality is the community within. Without a church, it would be significantly harder to form ideas and execute our ways as a smaller people. The church connects us and we give back to it. It holds connections larger than life at some points, and those connections can last a lifetime. Every time I travel to the church, I see adults and their children conversing almost like family. They're connected by the church, and their familiarity can spread across generations. The church gives hope and peace. For many people, it is seen as a sanctuary of learning and reverence. And many times it is a light in the darkness, as people may come here seeking a new chance with God. To me, it has always been a creative space, which really fills me with great feelings as I was a creative child. I find each and every day that the church is a great place to be in life. I have found that when I arrive at the church, it's a different area than the outside world. The library and the sanctuary give off an aura that is unmatched to other places. It is a retreat of peace for individuals facing tough times. I see it as something later in life that I can count on to bring me warmth and acceptance. This church is not like any other that I've seen, such buildings of love, covenant, and with great and loving people do not exist at every turn. And I am forever grateful that I was born into a Unitarian Universalist family. Over my many years at this church, I always reflect on my classroom experience, and to me, even at times where it seemed like going across town was a burden to me, or that leaving my parents in the sanctuary was awful, I still almost always left the building with a smile on my face. After almost all of the Sunday school classes, it felt like I had gotten something important done, even if it was just arts and crafts most of the time. I believe that it made a small positive impact on others, and that always made me feel like I had improved as a person slightly. As I go on in life and with the church, I plan to become a member. Both of my parents have been members of the church since about 2003. The Book of Names really encompasses the idea that our church has never really been a creedal setting, and it's all around a laid back and accepting location when it comes to core beliefs. These ideas are what make it unique from other religions. I've never felt like I was in the wrong space when within our doors. I believe that this place is one to cherish for all.
Why should we live in such a hurry and waste of life? We are determined to starve before we are hungry. I wish to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life. I wish to learn what life has to teach, and not, when I come to die, discover that I have not lived. I do not wish to live what is not life. Living is so dear. Nor do I wish to practice resignation unless it is quite necessary. I wish to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life. I want to cut a broad swath, to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its lowest terms. If it proves to be mean, then to get the whole and genuine meanness of it. Or if it is sublime, to know it by experience, and to be able to give a true account of it. Henry David Thoreau. To live surrounded by miracles that you never stop to look at would hardly fulfill you in life. Not stopping to look is such a common occurrence with how fast life seems to move. Take, for example, hiking. You shouldn't focus on the destination of the hike, you should focus on the journey, taking in the scenery and experiencing nature. You're walking on a path many others have walked before you, and many others will walk after. Or you could walk off the path. Go where few before you have gone, for there's a chance no one will walk again. Just moving your legs forward until you get to the end of the trail as fast as you can doesn't give you the full experience of it. Simply going from point A to point B without appreciating how spectacular the part of nature that you're in seems like a waste. Me and my family drove out to Oklahoma to go hiking a few years ago. It was cold and there was a strong wind, so we had to wear a few layers of clothes. It was a long trail, so about halfway through we started worrying about the sun setting before we were done, since we didn't bring any flashlights or something of the sort. The sound and the sight of nature, and the desire to take it all in, was somewhat outweighed by the feeling of being rushed by the setting sun, and the desire for the comfort of home. If I go back, I'll try to linger just a bit longer on those peaceful moments of watching nature, and worry less about the time. Now, I don't think something should have to seem impossible for it to be a miracle. I'd like to think small things should be defined as miracles too. I think of a miracle something more like a plant. It grows, slowly but surely, in a seemingly random location. Nothing chose where it was. It just happened to be there. It coincidentally had the right circumstances. It was in the right time. It was in the right place. It had the right environment to grow. Life is quite similar in the way that it's only able to exist under coincidentally perfect circumstances. I like to see these coincidentally perfect circumstances as miracles. An event with an extraordinary little chance of happening miraculously occurs. You miss the turn you needed and you can't get on a certain freeway, only to realize afterwards that there was an accident on that freeway that caused a traffic jam. Had you not missed that turn, you would be farther behind schedule than the routing caused you to be. It seems unlikely. Or someone writes a poem of love about no one she knows, with a near-perfect description of you, a year before she even met you. Those events seem to have a very small chance of happening, yet both of those have happened for me. Unlikely events occurring miraculously. There are many miracles in life. Life itself is the greatest of miracles. To see anything as a miracle requires intention, not to see life as wholly mean, but to see it as wholly sublime. There's beauty in all of life. Maybe seeing the beauty that you never could seem to find will fulfill you in life. Pay attention to yourself. Look deep inside yourself. Maybe you'll find the sublime beauty of humanity, the beauty of you. I'll try to live deliberately through life, not focusing on everything that I have to do, focusing on everything that I get to experience. I won't always be stopping. I'll only stop as much as I can. Now and then I'll pull myself away from focusing on the destination. My soul is a stubborn dog. Sometimes it has to tug on the leash to get my mind, a man worried about time and responsibility, to let it stop and smell the tulips on its short path, to let it take in the bittersweet, miraculous scent of life. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eli Braden, and this is my spiritual reflection. This is the multimedia piece I did, and I chose the quote, "If I speak the tongue of men or angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing." And that is from 1 Corinthians 13, verses 1 through 3. I really connected to this quote and the idea that love is what gives all actions meaning and purpose. When I was in second grade, I told a classmate that I didn't believe in God, and he responded that I was going to hell. He was just saying that because he was taught that God made people go to heaven, and that's where he believed I should go. But there was no love or understanding behind his beliefs or words, which just made it empty. In my piece, there is a stack of money to represent wealth, halo and wings to represent faith, a gavel to represent power, stars to represent fame, a tie to represent authority, and a microphone to represent a loud voice, all things that I see people striving for in life. They are all blocked out by a gray wash and bold lines to show that they aren't important and not the focus in this piece or in life. The bright heart in the middle represents love and is the focus for my art, as I believe it should be in life. This reflection has reminded me how important it is to spread love and compassion in everything you do, and I hope to go through life encouraging others to do the same.
Hello, I'm Austin Bay, and this is my spiritual reflection. The passage that I chose was, "The more we learn of science, the more we see that its wonderful mysteries are all explained by a few simple laws, so connected together and so dependent upon each other, that we see the same mind animating them all." And that was by Reverend Olympia Brown. And this is my spiritual reflection. I feel like the passage that I chose really fit me because it spoke to me and it doesn't talk about God. As an atheist, I don't really like passages that don't have to do with God. When I read this passage, I feel touched and like it's saying what I feel. What I think about others could feel about this passage is that it doesn't have enough God in it, because they think that church is only about God, and when in reality it doesn't have to do with God. It's about what you believe in and what you think is true, not about one specific God that everyone should believe in. Where I go to school, everyone is very Christian. When I tell people that I'm Unitarian Universalist, they have a lot of questions like, do you celebrate Christmas? What do you do for Easter? Or, what do you believe in? And I answer them, we believe in what we want to believe in, and we don't judge others for what they believe in. I love the passage because it says a few simple laws so connected and dependent upon each other that we see the same mind animating them all. I like this because it's saying that things can be very small, but we are dependent on them a lot. It's similar to Amazon rainforest, people burning it down for more farmland when that it's valuable oxygen that could be made. And those trees use carbon that could save our atmosphere. That's why I love this passage, because it talks about science and things connecting could possibly save the world for a little longer. Speaking of the world being broken down little by little, I have a lake in my backyard, and when it rains, it gets flooded with trash, and it also can have oil in it. When I would come home from school on a rainy day, I'm always astonished about how much trash there is in the lake. I just want my future grandchildren and children to have the same beautiful world as I live in today. I think if we all work together, we could change the world and make it better for our future generations by doing the smallest things, like using metal straws instead of plastic, or using the bags at the grocery store. I want us to encourage all the things that I just said and help the world maybe stay for a little longer.
Hi, I'm Sloan Silverman. I chose a passage from Henry David Thoreau. He said, "Why should we live in such a hurry and waste of life? We are determined to be starved before we are hungry. I wish to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life. I wish to learn what life has to teach, and not when I come to die, discover that I have not lived. I do not wish to live what is not life. Living is so dear. Nor do I wish to practice resignation unless it is quite necessary. I wish to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life. I want to cut a broad swath, to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its lowest terms. And if it proves to be mean, then to get the whole and genuine meanness of it, and to publish its meanness to the world. Or if it is sublime, to know it by experience, and be able to give a true account of it. Why should we live in such a hurry and waste of life? My family is constantly running from appointment to appointment or from meeting to meeting, and it feels like we never just stop and breathe. Even as a kid, I never had time for a true break. There was always a homework assignment, or there was friend drama that was hanging over my cloud like a personal thunderstorm. So when I read this passage, I came to a realization. I do live in such a hurry and waste of life. That realization made me just sit there dumbfounded. I'd always believed that I had an exciting life. But like Thoreau asked, when I come to die, will I discover that I have not lived? And I think the answer is yes. If I watched a movie about my life after I died, would I be content, or would I live a restless afterlife, wondering what could have been? I wish to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life. I think that I live on the surface of life. I believe that the church is my elevator that will bring me to the depths of life, the place to find my spirituality when my spirit feels lost, a place to make connections when I lack a connection to life, and a place where love is the doctrine and guiding voice, and where service is our prayer and practice. I learned once in my human geography class that in the 1800s, people's lives revolved around the church, and I believe that might still be the case for people like me. I grew up there. It's where I have my core memories and where I made my best friends. It's where I learned about who I was and what I wanted to be. It's where I learned the most. I think this class is my first step to living deeper, to write this reflection, to learn about my religion and about myself, and to find what my spirituality means to me. I want to be able to give a true account of life, not because I witnessed it, but because I lived it. I realize that I've been watching life instead of living it. Maybe I'm scared or lazy, but I know that I cannot just sit here and wait for the world to spin around me and the seasons to change while I watch life. I want to stay present and focused on my life before me. I want to live in those sweet, precious moments where I'm laughing so hard that my lungs hurt, where I'm whispering secrets to my friends in the middle of the night, where I'm hugging my sister, and where I'm sitting in the pews. For that is what makes living so dear. Thank you.
The reading I chose to do my spiritual reflection on is by the Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker. She wrote, "There is a love holding me, there is a love holding you, there is a love holding all. I rest in this love." I chose to express my reflection on this reading through poetry. Patient is the hand that dries your tears, kind are the lips that kiss your cheeks. We feel no envy, we will not boast. We do not seek ourselves, for we know who we were, are, and will be. Should you praise my mistake, I know you not worthy. You may feel the pain, but take it back, and it won't be in vain. Take in the rain and shine like the sun, because one day you might say, "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I listened to the voices that spoke through the wind. So come with me, let's sing God's hymn." I think that Dr. Rebecca Parker's aura of love and kindness really inspired me to use the language and the words that I used in my poem to express how she made me feel. It was crazy to me that she could hold so much power in just 4 lines of a poem. I used the imagery that I used in my poem because it just really made me feel like I brought my words to life and created more of, like hers, an aura of, emotion that can be perceived in any way. A time that I had in mind when I was writing this poem was actually it was during the snowstorm when when we were sitting by the fire drinking hot chocolate because we had boiled water like cavemen, and I just felt loved by the fire and the hot chocolate I was drinking and the blankets keeping me warm, and I just felt so acknowledged, and I was grateful for everything that helped me, get through it. So it's important that we rest in the love that is provided to us. And I can't say why it's important for you to rest in this love, but I can say why it's important to me. I think it's a journey that you have to go on by yourself to decide how you want to live your life in happiness, how you want to how you want to make yourself happy. Yeah, I think everyone needs to be loved, and they need to be held in the love, whether it's because you felt love reading a book and the author left a special note, or because you got a Valentine's Day card. It can be something so small, but I think a little bit of love goes a long way.
The reading I chose to do my spiritual reflection on is by our very own Reverend Aaron White, and this is how it goes. May you meet the holy in unexpected places. May you give love and receive it freely. And may you have the courage it will take to give your life as a blessing to all the world. Amen. Reverend White's benediction is one that I think everyone can derive some meaning from with, context to their own lives. And the part that I directed my attention to first is the first line, may you meet the holy in unexpected places. From this quote, what I most obviously got from that is that we should look for holiness, joy, happiness everywhere we go. And the quote kind of explicitly says the unexpected and the expected, but I think they can also be, made into the good and the bad. This idea, this motivation to make lemonade out of lemons and not really give up on anything too soon has, become a central tenet in my life. For example, something that relates to my life is when I'm rowing in crew. And, say I'm on this real rough work or piece and I still have 2 kilometers to row before I'm finished and I'm really feeling it. But I just remember that, it'll all be done soon and there's something that's really good that will come out of this. And I said it fairly concisely earlier, but I think it really does just boil down to, looking for that sliver of hope when things aren't going the way you want them to. And obviously, this isn't easy. It's really tempting sometimes to just sit back, just wallow back into your sadness or your laziness or whatever. But, those days when you do feel bad about something, you're unmotivated, waiting it out never helps for me. And, I've had time in for my spiritual reflection. I thought about this and what does help. What I've found that works is, go outside or just look around and you can appreciate what you do have or what you can do. And this may fall under the same category of optimism and appreciation that I've been talking about. But I truly do think it is impossible, or at least, very, very hard to walk outside and not notice something that is a blessing to me or the world. And when you think about things like these, you realize that these great things are a result of countless things that many other people have done for us and others. So, in that similar vein, as Reverend White said, may you have the courage it will take to give your life as a blessing to all the world. To this point, I believe that giving your life or yourself as a blessing doesn't necessarily have to be the world, which, admittedly is a rather grandiose target. As I said earlier, you can start appreciating your circumstances as a blessing to yourself. And from there, I think, finding holiness, and you can kind of make a target of giving yourself as a blessing to others. And it kind of forms a reciprocal chain of, giving yourself as a blessing. And this also does just relate to my first part of my quotation that I chose. I think it can be sometimes hard to think of, or, find solace in those hard parts of our lives. And it can be even then harder to give yourself as a blessing to the world. And as he said, it can take courage. And, you can do a lot of things like giving yourself as a blessing to the world, going out and meeting a bunch of people, or, meeting people, having fun, interacting with your family. All these things are blessings you can give to other people. And these things can take effort and be hard. But, I think that therein lies the central message of this benediction, that a lot of these things take effort. And through this effort, you can find the holy and unexpected and live your life, as it were, a blessing to the world.
Hi, my name is Evelyn Power. The quote I chose was, "There is a love holding me, there is a love holding you, there is a love holding all. I rest in this love," by Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker. This text says that love is surrounding everyone, even if they don't recognize it. Most people don't typically acknowledge or even see the love that's surrounding them, and we need to help them to see it. This all matters because if people don't feel loved, they might not feel their true worth, which is extremely important. Without feeling loved, a sense of dread and abandonment typically creeps into our brains. Oftentimes, those feelings are also accompanied by hopelessness, which is utterly draining. When we see and truly feel how loved we are, happiness overrules all the other nasty feelings. A huge issue of not knowing your true worth is putting yourself in situations that end up being harmful, all because you think it's what you deserve. In my personal experience, I witnessed friends put up with toxic friendships and relationships because they didn't realize that they deserved better. I went through multiple harmful friendships because I didn't realize that it wasn't how those were supposed to go. As soon as I felt how loved I am by the people I surround myself with now, I was able to recognize my self-worth and get myself out of the friendships that weren't worth my time and energy. So, what's the next step? We should all try to figure out how we can express our love to others and how we feel most loved. This not only helps us feel more worthy of feeling love, but also helps the people around us to feel love the way that they need it. Not everybody expresses and feels love the same way, so it's essential to make sure that we communicate how we need to be loved and that the people around us are receiving the right kind of affection for them. I can see people around me not feeling the endless amounts of love that surround them because they don't see it or refuse to admit that it's there. It's not a good habit to be in, and I want to help them to get out of it. I know personally I forget how much I'm loved, sometimes when I'm in an argument or if I've gotten in trouble. It's still there, I just don't see it right at that exact moment. I have friends who feel like they're incapable of having people love them just because of who they are. It's not true, it's just how they feel. I'm going to make sure that I continue to check in on the people around me to make sure that I'm expressing my love for them in a way that meets their needs, and also that I communicate when I don't feel loved. I'm also going to continue to work on my feelings towards myself and try to recognize when I'm being too harsh or judgmental. After all, I can't help other people love themselves if I don't reciprocate feelings of love towards myself.
The reading I chose is by Reverend Christine Robinson, a Unitarian Universalist minister. She wrote, "I invite you to remember that it is your hands that do the work of love in the world. These hands may hold another's hands. These hands may type emails to politicians, sign cards of consultation and congratulation. These hands may teach patiently, work quilts of beauty, or write words urging peace. These hands may bathe children, feed elders, nurse the ill, work the earth, organize communities. These hands clasp in prayer, open in release, grasp in solidarity, and clench in righteous anger. These hands are God's hands, your hands, our hands. A great mystery of flesh and intention, a great potential of embodied love." This quote makes me think about how the flesh of our hands and our good intentions create change and connections. Our flesh is the physical action, like holding a baby or petting a cat. Our intention is the big, mysterious, abstract ideas we have, like solving world hunger and ending racism. No one can do anything if we just talk about smashing the patriarchy, and no one can do anything if we live our lives without intention. We cannot make a change unless we actually physically go out into the world and do the good. When we pet sit for our neighbors and volunteer to make dinner, we are doing the good. When we bake bread and read our brothers a bedtime story, we are doing the good. When we give the last cookie to somebody else and compromise plans to spend time with our family, we are doing the good. And when we scoop the cat litter and buy coffee for our children, we are doing the good. We, our hands, do and are the good in the world. Sometimes you begin with good intentions, which naturally leads to good actions. This is what happened when I spent a Saturday at Crossroads in downtown Dallas. I walked through those doors with the intention of doing whatever I could. They put me to work diving into a dumpster of clothes and sizing them, toting boxes of green beans and canned soup, and greeting people at the door. These acts of kindness came from my intention to help. And sometimes it happens the other way around, like when I planted strawberries in my backyard. I could feel the dirt on my hands and the sun on my neck. I could see worms and beetles, and I could feel my arm ache from digging and breaking up soil. If I had not gone out and planted these strawberries, I would not appreciate how much work and time it takes to produce these fruits. My actions connected to the idea of fair trade and working conditions I learned about at school. This idea of actions and intention is represented in my drawing, with the hands reaching from the bottom being the action, and the flower in the top center being the intention. The clouds at the top are represented with a higher power unknown to us, I use mostly warm, earthy colors in the hands to represent the physical human aspect of the action, and the cooler tones in the flower, and the clouds to show the big, abstract intentions. Reverend Christine Robinson tells us that our hands are doing the work of love in the world. I ask you to think of a time whenever you went out of your way to show how much you love somebody. Embody that love and take it with you, because when you act out your love, it shows much stronger than your words. Thank you.